started our office in January 2023 this year, so it's been only a few months, but our company is growing fast. We realized quickly that having an office in Australia was very important in order to give this market the need and the care that it actually needed before when we were managing the market from Hong Kong. So I'm today with David.
Hello everybody, thanks for coming to our talk. My name is David Shvedowski and I was the technical lead on the project of the Australian payroll. So I will be here to answer all your technical questions or more in-depth questions about the localization later.
Yeah, so we're super excited today to show you what we've been working on, what we've been cooking for Australia. It wasn't an easy market to tackle, but I just want to thank my team, the Belgian team, the Hong Kong team, and also my service team in Australia for all the hard work that they put in it. So today we're going to focus on showing you guys 4 main improvements that we brought to the Australian market. First, linked to payroll, to inventory, accounting, and reporting in general. So with regards to payroll, right? So that's the big fish. We released our first ever module, which is basically a data module and a module that helps you work with different computations. And we'll see today, it's a lot to talk about. I only have 30 minutes, unfortunately, so further videos will come out as we go. But at the moment, today I'm just going to show you a good overview of what it is. It's very important for Australia to have payroll modules including in the ERP system because it's a market that's already very mature. And we realize that it's a hard task usually working on payroll because it depends on the country, it depends sometimes on the states. The different computation will change according to the size of the company, different things. So it's hard, but we had to do it, and we did it. Second, but also one thing to note as well about payroll is that the ATO in Australia we're a little bit lucky because the ATO provides us with a comprehensive set of rules that are complicated, but they're the same for everybody in Australia. So this was a great opportunity for us. Second, Starshipit. So we had an integration with Starshipit, which is a career integrator, providing services from a lot of different careers in New Zealand and in Australia. Third, linked to accounting, we improved our BAS report. So we had it already in version 16, but we improved it by adding the pay-as-you-go withholding sections. And finally, we listened to our market. This is a very popular demand. We had so many people asking for it. We added 2 new reports, which is the customer statements and the remittance advice. I'll get to that in a moment as well. And finally, we have a bunch of other small localized features that I really believe could be interesting for everybody to know if you're an Australian company and you want to start with Odoo. All right. So let's start with, as I mentioned, the big fish, Australian payroll. All right. So what can you do with Australian payroll at the moment? It's a lot of data. It's a lot of computations. Let's start with employees and contracts, maybe. So we have a lot of fields and a lot of, let's say, additional fields, like, well, I'm going to show you a little bit on this slide. We have the TFN, ABN, Medicare, tax offsets. I'm not going to go in detail. I'm going to bore everybody to death. But we have a lot of different fields that allow you now to manage Australian contracts and hires and stay compliant with the ATO. And of course, some of these fields will impact the pay-as-you-go withholding when creating pay runs. On the contractual side, you can also manage full-time, part-time, and casual employees, which is a specificity in Australia. You can define different pay schedules, so you can pay your employee weekly, fortnightly, monthly, quarterly, even daily if you want, which is also, again, something very important in Australia. So we try to stay very flexible in order to cover most cases. Nice news as well in Australia, you can manage your super account and your superannuation fund. So this is quite crucial as well for Australian companies. Finally, on the data side, we have a bunch of what we call salary structures in Odoo. So right now it's a lot of text. I'll actually show you on a database in a bit what this represents. So bear with me a little bit. But basically the salary structure is in Odoo, at least for Australia, a way to tackle these tax schedules as defined by the ATO. So we, for example, have a regular employee, which is Schedule 1. We have working holiday makers, which is Schedule 15, etc. So we have a bunch of new salary structure which will help you manage a lot of different flows. Okay, that's not all. So what can you do with all this data? Well, you can generate payslips. You can generate 1,000 payslips in a batch if your company has 1,000 employees, or you can just create them individually, one by one, according to specific flows. I want to pay my salesperson commissions, for example. I want to pay them to come back to work. I want to terminate an employee, unfortunately. So this is all the things that you can do. And your thousands of payslips, you can pay them at once thanks to an ABA file, which you can generate from the batch payslips, which is something that was already available for supplier payments in version 16, but now we have it for employees in version 17. And of course, once you generate these payslips, everything is computed based on the employee situation. So if your employee has needs child support, a payslip will be computed. Superannuation guarantee, net salary versus gross salary, pay-as-you-go withholding, allowances, commissions, etc., etc. So we probably don't have every single scenario as of yet. I want to manage your expectations, but it's pretty flexible, and we'll need your feedback moving ahead. Finally, cherry on top, our payroll module is connected to the accounting via journal entries, connected to the BAS report, and it's also connected to the time of application. So if your employee takes paid or unpaid time off, everything's done for you. Our second major module today is Starshipit. So Starshipit is a top-tier shipping and fulfillment platform which helps a lot of Australian and Kiwi businesses optimize their supply chain. So what's nice with Odoo now, you can get delivery rates from major Kiwi and Australian platforms such as Australia Post, New Zealand Post, Hermes, Direct, Star Trek, just to name a few. So you can see a small list here, and there are many more. You can just go to Starshipit's website to understand the coverage. It's not only about getting the rates, you can also track your delivery status. So when you go to the transfer, you can open the status and see, well, it's been shipped. Well, it's arrived to the destination. Well, we lost track of the package, so that's very nice. You can also manage labels, return labels for the couriers that allow for it. And then you can also, that's a nice addition that we added, you can also compute the cubic weight in addition, so including the package weight. So this is also something that's included. We have some improvements in the BAS report. So the BAS report is something that we had already in Odoo 16. However, now we included the pay-as-you-go withholding sections. So you can see now section W1 to W5 and the pay-as-you-go tax withheld. So it's linked to payroll. Not only, you have also other types of payments, suppliers that don't have an ABN, for example, etc., etc. So this is also in version 17. So that was a really nice addition. Finally, those are the partner reports that I mentioned. We have beautiful customer statements that you can send from your database to keep your clients in check. This is a practice that's very normal in Australia and New Zealand. So right now you can download that from the partner ledger or from the contact form. However, if you want to have it automated, well, we will have it automated, I think, in the next intermediate release, but at the moment it's already possible if you have Studio. So we can create some condition and automation to send it automatically to your customers. And the same thing goes for suppliers. We have the remittance advice that's now available in Odoo 17 after you register a payment to your supplier. Okay, so that's actually not all. We have a lot of smaller features that are available for you guys. I'm just gonna run through them really quickly. If you want to manage your buy now, pay later solutions, you can do so with Afterpay, Hum, and ZipPay. If you're working with the Stripe or the AsiaPay payment acquirer. FPOS payments for the point of sale are also supported using Stripe terminals. However, if you don't have a Stripe terminal, don't worry. It's still going to work. You can still use Odoo. It's just that you will have to manually add the amount on the terminal, like a lot of Australian companies are doing at the moment. Pay batch payments with APA file, I mentioned that already. But that's for suppliers. We are proudly compliant with payroll regulations. So basically, we have the ANZ files for both customer invoices and credit notes. So that's something that's very good for governmental entities and also, let's say, bigger companies that want to use e-invoicing network. We have a few Odoo terms. So this is also something that I took to heart. There are a lot of terms, for example, GST instead of taxes, BAS report in terms of tax report, etc. Fortnightly instead of bi-weekly. These terms are important for Australian businesses, and so we will have the Australian English automatically installed in databases in a matter of days. It's not the case at the moment yet, but it's not version specific, so it will be there soon. If you need to download a TPAR report, if your business needs it, you can do that in Odoo. It's a very small portion of business that need to do that, but you can stay compliant with Odoo. We have Australia servers, servers for Odoo.com and Odoo SH inside of us, in Sydney, actually. So this is also something that you can reassure your big customers if you have some, and they can migrate to Australia if they really need to. Other small features, so the EOFY has been localized, so it's June 30 now in all databases, at least all the new ones. And we have other smaller features that I'm not going to talk about today relate to accounting that are details, but important details for Australia. Okay, so before I move on, I will show you a little database. Can you all see? I'm just going to make it big screen. All right, so this is an Australian database in version 17. Let me just have a quick look at the time. Okay, I still have a few minutes. So what I would like to show you today, because I only have 20 minutes in total, and I want to spend some time for Q&A. Don't worry, we'll have videos about each of these modules coming in later. But at the moment, I just want to show you a simple example of how I could manage a pay run in Odoo. Because after all, that's our big release for version 17. So what we'll do, we'll create a new employee. I'm going to go to the employee, create a new one. We'll call it Fabien Smith, very typical Aussie name. And we have a picture of Fabien. Some additional information. He's a sales clerk, so I'm just going to choose my job position here. And I know he has a lot of private information that I should add. Right? For example, maybe he is married with 3 children or 4, like 5 children. Lucky guy. And but I'm not going to spend too much detail right now writing the whole specification. I just want to make sure my payslip and my taxes will be computed according to a situation. So what's important here, if you go to the HR settings, you can see a lot of new fields that are linked, specific to Australia. He's a resident, so I'm not going to tick, the Australian resident for tax purposes, so I'm not going to tick the non-resident box. He doesn't have a student loan, but he did provide his TFN. So I'm just going to add my TFN here. He claimed tax-free threshold, so that's important, otherwise he's going to pay too much taxes. And the rest is pretty much okay. He's not a very complicated employee. So I'm going to now create his contract. That's part 2. So of course, an employee could have many different contracts. He could start as a sales clerk, become sales manager later, so of course you need to change the contract. He started on the 1st of October, let's say. Of course, there is no contract end date. And here on the right side, you can see the salary structure type. This is very important because this will define what kind of employee and what kind of tax schedules apply to this employee. 99% of your employees will be in tax schedule 1. So you would normally not need to change this. However, if, for example, he is a working holiday maker, you might need to choose that because very different tax rates apply. Okay, so let's keep it to regular. He works 38 hours a week, so this is full-time. He has a fixed wage, and let's say he's paid 5,000 gross a month, so a yearly salary of 60,000. Let's go to the contract details, nothing to add here. A few additional fields here in the Australia section, but such as, for example, salary sacrifice, withholding variation, etc. But I'm not going to spend time today talking about this. So I'm just going to save the contract. And also very important, you might have worked on the contract, but now it's not running yet. So I'm going to click on running in order for the work entries to be generated so that we can start creating proper payslip. Exactly. So now that it's done, it's the end of the month. I do my pay runs monthly. So I'm going to go to the payroll application, payslip, and I'm going to create a batch of payslip to pay all my employees at once in October. So I'm just going to call this batch October 2023. I'm going to, this is the 1st of October to no, this is not the 1st of October, sorry. Yeah, it is the 1st of October until the 31st of October. Okay. So then I click on generate payslip, and here Odoo will show all the employees, but you can potentially filter down based on the salary structure. I'm just have Fabien here, and I generate it. And as you can see, all my paid slips were generated at once. So here it's only one, but I can go check it. Okay. Fabien, he worked 22 days this month. He didn't take any day off, but if you have any day off, paid or unpaid, they will show under attendance here in order to show that the same rate applies if it's paid, and if it's unpaid, of course, the salary will be less this month. You can potentially add other inputs, which would be allowances, which could be, let's say, for example, sales commissions, but I'm not going to go in such details at the moment. Okay, and if you click on the salary computation, you can see that Odoo automatically created everything for you. You see he has a basic salary of 5,000, a taxable salary of 5,000, so that's the gross. The difference between basic and taxable here is basically that from the basic, sometimes we need to deduct some amounts that will decrease the gross before we actually compute it. We have the pay-as-you-go withholding, 932, perfect. We have super guarantee contributions, which are on top of that salary. And the net salary is 4,137. And there is even a Medicare adjustment because Fabien's a lucky guy with 5 kids, so he's paying a little bit more in terms of adjustments. So we can create the draft entry. But before, you know what? Let's print the payslip. To see it, press 1. Okay, sorry. I'm just gonna go back here. Yeah, so you can see here that we have a nicely generated payslip that can be customizable, by the way, with your header, your footer, and also your company details. You see the ABN is there. Fabien has a lot of information there. You can see the pay frequency, the periods, the salary, the hourly rate as well, according to different things. So for example, if it's overtime rate, he's going to be paid more. If he's a casual worker, for example, there is casual loading, etc., etc. See, the super payments is 550. So this payslip actually looks pretty good. We'll go back. And from here, let me just have a quick look at the time so that I'm not overrunning. Almost done. But yeah, we're almost done anyway. So let's go back to our payslip. And here we created the accounting entry. So if you want to know how your payslips will affect your accounting, which is super important, you can click on the draft entry, and you see here a bunch of accounts. Right, so you have the pay-as-you-go withholding, which is a current liability or a payable according to what you wish it to be. Wages and salaries, net plus the pay-as-you-go withholding. Superannuation, of course, so you have expenses accounts here, payables and current liabilities in total. And on the right side, you have a very nice but important details. You can see the little GST grids here on the right side. That means that your tax report has been, if you post this entry, your tax report will be affected. So if I go to reporting, no, sorry, not reporting, I need to go back to accounting. Accounting here, reporting. You see BAS report. So that's if you have the Australian language installed. And if you go down, this is October, right? If you go down, you can see now that our pay-as-you-go tax withheld sections have been updated. So W1 is the total salaries gross, W2 863 for the pay-as-you-go withholding, the total amounts, and this affects your summary, and of course this affects your BAS closing. Right, so this is what I wanted to show you today with regards to payroll. I don't think I have I will take 2 more minutes because I do think that it would be very interesting for you guys to understand which modules to install if you want to use it. So go to apps, remove the filter, write Australia, and here you see you can install payroll with accounting, which will automatically install accounting, payroll, and all the Australian specificities. So this is good to know. Another module that you can install for Australia, New Zealand, and actually even other countries if you want, it's called the customer statements. So this is available for all the localizations. So if you have a country that needs to use it, you can. So here it's going to help you download these customer statements I talked about earlier. And finally, you can look for Starshipit. Actually, this is something that you can also install from the settings directly. You can find it, and it's going to automatically install Starshipit. Okay? So I think I'll stop there. I really want to show you more. I really do, believe me. But we will have videos coming up to explain, well, a lot of additional features and go much more in details with payroll, with Starshipit, of course, with customer statements, so that you guys can be independent as you learn to go through Odoo. Thank you. We have actually a small slide that I want to emphasize as well. It's basically what's new in 2024. So I want to manage everybody's expectations by explaining that payroll took time. right? We had a lot of work on it, and we have an amazing structure now, very flexible, that allows us to start using it. But at the moment, you will still have to keep your single touch payroll on the side, because we're a few months away from getting fully compliant with STP phase 2 and Superstream. So at the moment, you can't just go on Odoo and just use Odoo. It's going to take a few months for us to be fully compliant, but we have the right architecture, we have the right data, we have the right flows, so that's just the next step. Okay, so that's what we're going to focus on now. As soon as I go back to Australia, we'll work on STP phase 2 and Superstream requirements. We will fine-tune the payroll flows, because it's not perfect, but we have something that works, and we'll need a lot of feedback from the community, of course, from our partners, from our customers, and from interested parties. And finally, we'll help you guys lodge your BAS report to the ATO directly from Odoo in the next version. So that's also something that we're working on in order to have more user-friendliness in terms of your connectivity with the ATO. Okay, so we need your feedback. This is just a quick slide to show you that if you tested the payroll, if you have feedback, things to improve, feel free to send us message that's au-feedback@mail.com. This is a talk that will be registered on YouTube, so you can always find it later. Okay, we'll try our best to reply to you ASAP. Okay, so now, well, we can have a look at the Q&A pad, or maybe if you guys have some questions in the audience, we'll take them. Thank you. All right. Do you need to pay the users? No, you do not need to pay the users. So you can potentially manage everything. So it's linked to the employee application and not the user application. So there are certain things that are going to be more convenient if you pay the users. So for example, the employees will be able to take their own time off, but it's possible for the HR manager to manage that on their own as well. So it's going to be a little bit more workload, but it's absolutely possible. You do not need to pay for every single employee in your company. Okay. Maybe I'll open the Q&A pad as well. Okay, we have actually quite a bit of questions. In Australia, is it possible to have 2 contracts running with 1 employee? If so, how do you handle this case? Then validate. So in Australia, it's not possible to manage 2 active contracts with the same employees, but you can have an inactive contract with the main contract of that employee. The main reason is that when Odoo chooses an employee, you can actually select a second contract that might be inactive, that you might be able to run. But this is something I would love to hear. These kinds of cases. So you can send us feedback at the AU feedback email that I sent if you have a very specific scenario that you want to discuss.
I can answer that one actually. So how do you handle the case when someone is working on a night shift? The night shift starts on a regular day, 8 p.m., finishes on a public holiday, etc.
Yeah.
So in Odoo, how payroll is working is that working entries are generated from many different sources, and this depends on your employee configuration. So when you configure your employee to have a source, for example, from the timesheet application, then the timesheet will generate the working entries, and those working entries will have many different configurations, let's say, that will dictate how much that working entry should pay your employee. And in version 17, we have implemented the accounting and Australian payroll to implement a possibility for the user of the database to input himself how much a certain work entry should pay the employee according to the what's the name again?
Penalty rates. So
the penalty rates,
yeah,
of
the award.
Of the awards.
Yeah,
yes,
so we
system.
Exactly.
So you can handle the awards. You just need to do some manual inputting, because for us it was not possible to implement a whole automation because of the complexity of the rates system, but of the award system. But you can enter everything manually, and Odoo will compute everything out of the box and integrate with the rest of the applications.
I think a really good point as well, if you're using a lot of overtime rate and things like these, would be to import your work entries directly. And those work entries, you basically create your work entry tab before. For example, normal attendance, overtime, Saturday pay, Sunday pay, public holiday. You add a penalty rate to it, and then you import your employees' timesheet in a way through Excel. It's not going to be through timesheet, it's going to be through what we call work entries, but Odoo will automatically compute your payslip accordingly.
And next question is kind of the same. So do you cover tracking of overtime? Yes, if you install the timesheet application.
It's attendance, not timesheet, I think.
Attendance application.
Yeah.
Then the overtime is taken into account and it is integrated into the payroll location. So everything will work with the standard Odoo.
I know that in the future of Odoo, so in Odoo standard, they want to integrate timesheets directly with payroll, but I think this is something that's still under works. So
that's still on the works.
Yeah.
Maybe for version 18.
Yeah. Another question. And that's also over time. Is it possible to generate a consolidated journal entry for the whole payslip batch? Yes, it is absolutely possible. It is a setting in the payroll application. So you go to payroll configuration, and one of the first setting is basically for you to choose whether you prefer to have 100 journal entries linked to each and every single payslip, or if you want to consolidate one single journal entry for all your employees at once. So this is absolutely possible.
So the question, how many interfaces have you done with other systems regarding the payroll solution? So in terms of interfacing with other systems, the only two interfaces that Odoo really needs is the pay event, which is the sending your payroll files to the ATO, and also the SuperStream integration. So both of them are currently under works,
Yes.
as I understand. For version 18 and maybe before, we would have connection directly with the ATO regarding the payroll. So we'll be able to generate your payslip files from Odoo, and they will be sent directly to the ATO without you having to do anything to stay STP2 compliant. So this will be really great, but it's still under works.
Yeah. And we will publish also a news we'll publish everywhere on LinkedIn and on our website on odoo.com when things will be fully compliant. You will know. You did an amazing job with localisation. Thank you. Great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, here. Can Odoo record super details of the employee? Yes. Now you can go on the payroll application configuration. Actually, we can show even. You can go here on the payroll configuration. All the way down here, and you see Australia, super funds, and super account. So it's pretty basic, but it's basically gonna do the job. So for example, we're gonna choose Fabien. He has a TFN. He has, super fund. Maybe it's gonna be Australian super. All right, so I'm just gonna create it here. Of course, right now I'm just creating it on the go. Actually, there's a required field, so I can't do it here. I need to create the fund first, then the other one. Yeah, as you can see. So I'm gonna go to the super fund first. Up. Okay, create Australian super, add it, a specific ABN, an address, if there is a contact to it, I can even create it on the go. Okay, and the type of fund, so is it APRA or SMSF? So it's just a normal one. USI, you have, this is the unique superannuation information or something like this. So basically you need identifier for that particular super fund. And then from the account itself, for Fabien, you can add the super fund, Australian super, and then you can add the member number, 002, for example, member since date. So we generate this information. Right now, as David was saying, it's not yet generated within the SuperStream file that you need. So you can already have all this data in, you can prepare, and in a few months, when we're fully compliant with it, we will use this data in order to be fully compliant with SuperStream. Okay, maybe one last question. Is there a document which lists all the changes in the Australian localization? And can we know which one landed community enterprise? So we are currently working on the documentation. So it will be available in actually a matter of days. Within 1 to 2 weeks, we want to push most of these changes. They're already prepared, they're already drafted, but now we're still pushing to the website in Odoo, waiting for final review, and you will have definitely a list of changes. So in order to do that, you write Odoo documentation, you go to the fiscal localization sections, and you find Australia, and you'll find this information. And can we know which one lands in community enterprise? Accounting is only in enterprise. What about payroll?
The whole Australian payroll module is in enterprise, so it's not available on community. So every change that will land there, it will land on enterprise.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's clear at least. When will Odoo support open banking support? So of course, I was expecting this question. We are still working really hard on it. It's a discussion that we're having with the major providers in Australia for BankSync. We are aware of the difficulties that some of our customers are facing. We are also improving the way that we react and we support these kinds of tickets. So we're working hard with the Odoo support team, but also with the product owner in order to improve and actually go for open banking support. So this is still in the works. We're not forgetting about you guys. Okay, I think we have to go. We have the next talk going out. Thank you so much for your attention today.
For coming.
Thank you.